August meeting of the Board of Zoning Adjustment to order. This is our August 3rd, 2021 meeting. I ask that you all silence your cell phones. Any appeals? Anybody here that would like to talk about after the presentation of each case, they can make your points after the presentation. Speaker cards are available. If you would like to speak, please fill out a card and turn it in. Everybody, the applicant will have 10 minutes to speak. Any rebuttal will have 10 minutes, and then, or anyone against the proposal will have 10 minutes, and then after that it'll be 5 minutes. And we've got somebody keeping time over here. After the case is presented, I ask that everybody leave the auditorium so we can conduct the rest of the business in an orderly manner. And so please exit the building and keep quiet as you leave, please. How about the minutes? Has everyone received the minutes?
We need to do the roll call first.
Oh, I will, Madam Secretary, would you call the roll, see if we've got a quorum?
Mr. Brookter?
Here.
Mr. Spees? Mrs. Thomas?
Here.
Mr. Ballantyne?
Here.
Mr. Blash?
Here.
Mr. Daly?
Here.
Mr. Chairman, we have a quorum. I'm going to ask Mr. Michael Blash if he would sit in as a voting member today. He has agreed. And we have a quorum? Yes, we do.
We're good to go. Okay. How about the minutes? Everybody have an opportunity to look and read the minutes? Can I?
Meeting.
I have a motion to accept the minutes. Do I hear a second? And we have to vote with the screen.
Motion carries.
Okay, thank you. Our first case today is BOA case 2021-2340. Whoop.
We have to postpone the first case.
We had number 7. Excuse me. If you would, turn your agenda of the cases over to case number 8, which was BOA case 2021-2480 BOA. That's a case on Fountain Street in Lewisburg, and we need to postpone. Was that what we're doing, postponing it?
Yes, we need to postpone the case. It has to be re-advertised, so it is requested to be postponed till the September meeting.
Okay, can I have a motion to postpone this case?
BOA case number 2021-2480.
Do I have a second? Second. Okay, let us vote with the screen.
Motion carries.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. Now, going to our case number 1 on the agenda, BOA case number 2021-2342. This is the case for North Lake Christian School and all the change in the roads and all that. That case has been withdrawn. Okay. Now we'll move on to case number 2. This is BOA case 2021-2431. This case is postponed from last meeting. This is a case about Honda of Slidell. It's a request by applicant in a PUD plan unit development overlay to reduce the required street planting area from 35 feet to 4 feet. The property is located at 510 East Howes Beach Road in Slidell, Louisiana. The applicant is Group 1 Realty Incorporated, Honda of Slidell, and Representative Berkey Air. And I think Mr. Berkey Air is from someplace in South Carolina. We have somebody here.
I will read the staff report.
Test.
I'm going to read the staff.
You guys can hear me?
Oh, I'm sorry. Hold on.
Sorry.
I will
Would you please read the staff report?
A revised plan has been submitted showing a 20-foot street planting buffer, including 3 Class A trees, 1 existing live oak tree to be preserved, and 6 Class B trees, and a large number of shrubs. The revised plan shows a significant increase in the depth of the street planting area. However, it does not meet the minimum landscaping requirements of 35-foot street planting area and 15 Class A and 15 Class B, and maintains all existing trees over 6 inches in caliper. Also, we added to your staff report here that as part of the landscaping regulation, it allows for flexibility in the depth of the planting area, which could be something that the petitioner could consider. And should the board be in support of the revised landscape plan, it should be, staff suggests that it would be subject to the items listed here on your staff report.
Is the applicant present? State your name and address and who you are and what you want to say.
Yeah, John Jacobson, Group 1 Automotive, 800 Gessner, Suite 500, Houston, Texas. He'll address him, that's Burke, the civil engineer. I just wanted to say we're committed from Group 1 standpoint for Honda of Slidell for it to be remodeled, look a lot better than what it looks like right now. Last meeting, there was some comments about the trees, and I just want to say from operational standpoint, we're committed to that as well. One of the things that we had recommended for him, when he came in, we gave him some criteria for design. And a part of that was, give us some oak trees back if you're going to take those 2 away. He'll show that, I hope, when he gets up here, but the goal is they're kind of in the way for what we need for parking. He has replanted those, not the same size. Clearly, they're 16 inches. We're not going to put a 16-inch back, but we have a lot more oaks that are in the front. So I'll turn it over to Burke, but we are committed to making sure that the planning, the board here approves what we're proposing here, and anything additional, please, we're here to help.
Good afternoon. My name is Berkey Air. I'm with Air Design Group at 215 Johnston Street, Rock Hill, South Carolina. As you'll remember, we were here, many of you will remember, we were here last month, and we were proposing a 4-foot, sorry, it's unusual talking with the mask on.
Take it down.
Thank you. That's way better. So we were here last month, and we had proposed a 4-foot landscape buffer, and essentially in the conversations we had here and the discussions that we had here, it became obvious very fast that 4 feet just wasn't enough, that we needed more. So we postponed until this meeting. We spent some time reviewing the plan, revising the plan. We came back down here and met with staff, met with Ms. Lambert, and revised the plan. And I'm going to walk over here and point to a couple of changes on the plan that we've made. Essentially what we did was we removed an entire row of parking so that we pushed back from a 4-foot buffer to a 20-foot buffer. Our parking is now 22 feet to one corner and 23 feet to the other corner, but we have a wall that's 20 feet, so that's how we're saying it's a 20-foot buffer, because the wall is out in front. So you can't have a wall in the buffer either. So the parking is set back a little more than 20 feet of the buffer, but we do have a 20-foot buffer to where the wall is. And on this plan, I'm sorry, it's probably not easy for everybody to see, but I can walk around, and I did bring some 11 by 17 copies of the plan that you should have. You'll see the 2 existing live oak trees that are out, yes, sir, that's it. The 2 existing live oak trees that are outside of that 35-foot buffer, but were a big point of discussion in our last meeting. So those are the sort of reddish-orange dots that are in the middle of the parking. So that's here. That's where the two existing trees. Now, they're outside of the buffer. That's where the two existing live oak trees are that we spent a lot of time talking about at last meeting. They are outside of the buffer, and they're just in a terrible place for us to be able to build, expand this facility the way we need to. So what we're proposing is for those, they're each 16 inches, so there's 32 total caliper inches. And so we're proposing 8 new live oak trees to replace those 2 existing live oak trees. So 8 4-inch trees totals 32 inches to replace the 2 16-inch trees. And there's an existing live oak tree that is in the buffer that we are preserving. And so that's the one that we're preserving. There's a live oak tree here in this corner. So that's the one that we are preserving. And we're preserving some other trees that are existing in that buffer too. They're not live oaks. So with this plan, we're providing the same amount of stems that would be required in a 35-foot buffer, even though it's a reduced buffer. So you're getting the same number of plantings. And this plan also is bringing the side buffer yards and the rear buffer yards into a much improved state from where they are today. And so the number of new trees proposed, there are 30 new live oak trees proposed, 9 bald cypress, 13 loblolly pines, 33 crepe myrtles, 38 little gem magnolias, 16 palms, and about 73 shrubs. So it's a pretty ambitious landscape plan. It's going to make a dramatic improvement to the front of this facility. And by expanding this one row of parking and one drive aisle, it greatly improves our circulation and the most important sales display part of the facility. So that's the most important part. What you can see from the road is what brings our customers in. So that's really important to us. I've also got a couple of renderings that our architect prepared for us that illustrate where that wall is and sort of give you an image. Yes, sir, there are 2. One is sort of a straight-on view, and one is a perspective view. So I think you'll agree that it's a nice-looking plan.
I do agree.
It helps us operationally. Our intent is to meet every part of the code with the exception of the dimension of the buffer. The 35-foot is just impossible for us.
Right here.
But we do meet the 35 feet
Get it back.
on the edges and where the island is, sort of in the middle part. It's just sort of in between the 2 drives where we're down to 20 feet. And with no further ado, I mean, I'm really ready to answer some questions because I'm not so great at presenting. I'm better in a question-answer format.
If you would just step back, we'll see if is there anyone here in objection to this request for variance? Hearing none, do we have questions or from the board? Yes, Mr. Brookter.
Mr. Chair, I want to make a motion to approve the new plan.
We have a motion and a second, so we're open for discussion. And I have a question for our landscape architect expert on all things flora and fauna. Are you happy with this plan?
I would say my happiness does not depend on any plan. Just off the basis here.
Your
But I have-
happiness is my concern.
Oh, well, regardless. I have not reviewed the latest, greatest plan, because this, I believe, is different from what was previously submitted. Is that correct, Helen?
That is
So,
correct.
and this doesn't even tell me the names of what kind of tree or anything, so there's no way for me to tell you in 2 seconds, because I haven't reviewed it per our standards. So,
This is the plan that did you modify the plan from the one you submitted earlier?
Yeah.
Not the first one, but I know you increased to 20 feet.
So initially, the progression was that we had our original plan that was down to 4 feet.
Yeah.
And then we moved the line work, but had not changed the landscaping materials. And I
Okay.
sent you that plan before we came to meet with you. And then I think by the time we sent this plan, you had already prepared your staff report.
Yeah, okay.
So the plan that you reviewed for your staff report has different planting materials than this plan does.
Okay, so we didn't get a chance to review that, okay.
Right. But-
Okay.
I guess I would say I just have questions about it, because I haven't been able to do a thorough review of it, because I haven't had the plan.
Sure. So I will say that we made an attempt to meet the proper number of Class A trees and Class B trees, and are willing to continue to work with staff to make sure that we get the right, the right species and the right numbers.
So what they need to do is vote on.
Really, the only thing that
What are they subject to?
the only thing outside of the ordinance that we're trying to accomplish is the dimension of the buffer. So,
Right.
we still have site plan review to go through for permit, and I think that those questions could be addressed then, but we certainly will, whatever we need to do.
If it's okay, I just have 2 questions, if it's possible for me to ask.
Yes,
Okay.
please, go
I
ahead.
want to be
I'll do
out
my
of
best.
order
I am
here.
not a landscape architect.
Yeah, so I just wanted to make sure, I understand that you're proposing to mitigate the same inches of live oaks. Are those in addition to the standard buffer requirements, or are those being used to satisfy the buffer requirements? I can't tell that without doing the calculations.
It's some of both, because some of the 4-inch live oak trees that are proposed are in the buffer, and some of them are not.
Okay,
We tried to
so-
do all of the mitigation trees from the building to the street. So there's a lot of live oak trees that are meeting buffer requirements that are on down the side, but the 8 new ones, the 8 larger ones, the 8 4-inch ones that are intended to offset are all from the building forward. And 3 of them, I think, are in the actual buffer yard, and I think 5 of them are just between the building and the street.
Well, they can be planted anywhere on the site. That's not the question. The question is whether or not the inches are in addition to whatever the calculated buffer inches are. Does that make sense?
They're not, but these 2 that you're removing aren't in the buffer.
Correct.
Doesn't matter.
2 that we're removing are not in the buffer.
Yeah.
I think that every tree that we planted, we counted the inches for, I don't think we did all the buffers and then came in and added 32 more inches.
Okay.
I'd have to
so
kinda double check that, 'cause
That's
I'm
technically
not
how we
sure.
would do it by code, so if you're asking for that as part of your variance, I would just be clear about that that's what you're asking for. And then also it appears that the, couple of the islands in the front don't have trees in them, and I don't know if that's part of your variance request or if you're intending to put those in there.
It was not part of our variance
Yeah.
request. We did see that in the staff report. The 2 islands that are closest to the showroom currently have shrubs in them, but not trees. And we weren't modifying those islands, so we didn't propose a new tree in there, but we can certainly do that if that's what we need to do.
Okay, well, those are just the things I can see off the top of, of this plan. So I'm just trying to provide some clarification if you're going to make a ruling on it today.
I think the only variance item that we're asking for is just the distance of the buffer. So, but at the last meeting, it was a big conversation about those live oak trees and what are we gonna do with them, and are we gonna save them? So I wanted, even though they're not part of the variance, I wanted to let the board know how we're dealing with them.
I appreciate that.
And you've satisfied the questions from the last meeting. your current proposal satisfies those other concerns. So the variance that Mr. Bookter made a motion on and has a second is a 35-foot down to 20,
Yes, sir.
and that's what we're voting on.
Yes, sir.
And also, you would have to vote on the request, are you gonna ask him to plant the islands at the end of each row? And are you, at the end of each parking row? And also, do you meet the 15 Class A and 15 Class B trees within the front,
I believe that we do. Our intent was to meet it.
including the replanting of those live oaks?
Correct.
Okay, so I guess that's for the board to vote as to approve as requested, and also add the required Class A trees inside of the parking row. Would you like me to repeat?
No, I was going to ask the board. I'm clear on what you said. I'm asking the board if they're clear. Yes, Michael?
Yeah, I'd like to offer a friendly amendment to the motion on the floor at this point in time to include what Mrs. Lambert had spoken about regarding those two trees in the islands. I think it seems like that's something we would like to kind of do, to kind of put the icing on the cake, you know. I'm pretty comfortable with what's been submitted, though.
Okay, so, Mr. Brooker, we've got a motion and a second to approve the variance request from 35 down to 20 foot with the added condition, as Ms. Lambert pointed out, for the addition of the plantings on the islands. So that's what we're voting on.
And you're voting on approving the plan as proposed?
Yes.
Right.
Plus the islands?
Yes.
Correct.
Okay, let's vote with the screen.
Well, sir, hold just a second.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Mr.
You know, if I'm patient enough, all my questions will be answered, so they were. The question was, does the staff still want these additional stipulations as listed in the staff report? So that was a yes.
Vote with the screen.
Mr. Valentine, you didn't vote.
What's that?
Did you vote?
I did.
Mr. Brookter? Oh, let's see. Motion carries.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. The next case on the agenda is number 3. It's BOA case 2021-2459. BOA, request by applicant in an A3 suburban zoning district and MHO, a manufactured housing overlay, to reduce the required rear yard setback from 25 feet to 15 feet to allow for the placement of a manufactured home on the property. The property is located at 59230 North Preacher's Oak Lane, Slidell. The applicant and representative is Mr. Dwayne Parker. Oh, wait a minute. Would you please read the staff report, please?
The objective of the request is to allow for the placement of a 1,280 square foot, 16 by 80 manufactured home on the property. I would like to bring up to the attention to the board members that Mr. Parker included a narrative, but he also included a drawing in, as part of his request. And if I'm not mistaken, it stated here, the home is 76 foot long without the tongue. If I'm not mistaken, maybe the request would have to be amended. He's requesting to place the mobile home 17 feet from the rear property line, but if the mobile home is 76 foot long, then maybe the request should be to just reduce from 24 feet to 25, from 25 feet to 24 feet. And maybe Mr. Parker could clarify.
They include, when you purchase them, what a lot of people don't know about the manufactured homes, when you purchase them, the tongue is included because they sell them as a 16 by 80, but actually it's 15 and some change and actually 70, hold up, mama. Actually 70 something. At the beginning of this, I asked questions about it before the manufactured home image got on the lot. When I first submitted my permits and the combining of the lots and everything, and I explained to them that all the lots back there is trailer parks. Is actually a big trailer park, and no one told me that it has to be a certain size manufactured home can actually go in the lot. I didn't find out about the size until I done been to all the meetings and everything else, and then all of a sudden, I'm trying to get my electrical permit, and they tell me that I got to get a adjustment. Stop. I have to get an adjustment done. So then I had to figure out what was the adjustment, because nobody gave me any paperwork at the beginning stipulating all these different hurdles to get to just to get to my electrical permit. And so I had to pull the concrete. I had to purchase the repo home, and it was already on the lot, probably about 2 months before I even got to your stage. So there's no kind of way I can pull up the anchors out of the concrete and pull it up and pull more concrete.
But you have to remove the tongue.
The tongue has been removed.
Okay.
I had them come back out and take the tongue off, and they took the axles off because it was something else they said I was gonna have to go through. Another stage dealing with the axles being on it.
So
where I
how-
couldn't have got nothing approved.
How far is the mobile home from the front property line at this time?
I wanna say it is, I think it's the 24 maybe, because it's a ditch, so I don't know what y'all consider y'all property, part of the parish, and what's considered part of my property.
But so in the rear, is it 17 feet from the rear, or it's actually 24 feet from the rear? Because once you remove the tongue,
Well, the trailer itself is actually 17 feet from the fence. Because on the other side of the fence is my property as well, but they have, the trailer park, the people who we purchased the land from, we bought it from the trailer park, and it's part of the trailer park. So they have a while back, they had to go back and redo it's like the tanks. They have the big sewer ditch or whatever you wanna call it. I mean pond back there behind it. And so the parish had them go back and clean it out, pump it out, and they had to do something to it. But in the process of doing that, they dug a ditch through they dug a ditch between the properties. So my property actually falls in the middle of the ditch, but my fence, they told me that at the parish office that I got to be so many feet off the ditch, which the ditch is going through my property and the trailer park. So to give you an accurate count, I just went from the actual backside of the slab, where the mobile home sits at right now, to the fence is exactly 17 feet.
Okay.
Now, what's on the other side of the fence, which belongs to me, that the parish allowed them to cut the ditch through, so the water can drain to the pond, like the retention sewer pond. So I didn't measure that part.
okay, we appreciate it.
I see Mr. Brookter has a question.
Mr. Parker, what is the actual size of your lot or your property?
50 by 120. At first, it was 225. They were sold to me as one package, 225 foot by 125 lots. But then they told me I couldn't put nothing on the 25 feet, so I had to combine them both and get a new survey done, which I did that as well. But even going through that process, that's what I'm saying. Nobody actually told me that a certain size manufactured home can only go back there. Well, they already have something that's longer than it in the existing trailer park.
Any other questions?
So, and Mr. Smith came out there and looked at it as well.
Thank you,
Because
Mr. Parker.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Parker. If you wouldn't mind stepping back. Is there anybody in opposition, anyone here in opposition to this request? Seeing none, can I look for a motion from the board, or?
To accept the request by the applicant in the rear yard setback.
I have a motion to approve the request for variance by Ms. Thomas. Can I hear a second?
I second.
And a second. Any discussion, any further discussion?
I have one comment. Sir, I admire you. I know how it is to have babies with you, and I just think you did a great job with her.
It's hard being a single dad, I tell you.
Having no further discussion, vote with your screen. Thank you, Mr. Parker.
Thank you.
Motion carries. Mr. Brookter, what was your vote? In favor.
Okay. Moving right along. The next case is our case number 4, BOA case number 2021-2470, BOA. Request by applicant in an A2 suburban zoning district for a waiver of the required setback on the north and west sides and to reduce the required setback from 25 feet to 2.75 feet on the east side of an existing pond. The property is located at 1835 Lotus Road in Mandeville, Louisiana. The applicant and representative is CF Properties of Louisiana, Joshua Fuquay. And I'd ask for a request to have the staff comments, please.
The objective of the request is to grant waivers and reduction of the required pond setback to allow for the property to be subdivided into 5 lots as shown on the attached survey. The 14.18 acre parcel of land is currently developed with a single-family residence, accessory structures, and a pond. The proposed subdivision would cause the property lines of Lot 2, 3, and 4 to cross over the existing pond, and for the pond also to be located 2.76 feet from the proposed property line of Lots 4 and 5. There's no compelling reason to be in favor of the request, considering that the proposed number of lots could be reduced and/or the 5 lots could be reconfigured to allow the existing ponds to be located only on 1 lot. The request also raises a concern regarding the future maintenance and use of the pond since it would involve multiple property owners.
Thank you, Ms. Lambert. Sir, please state your name and address. And
Josh Foke, 106 Park Place, Suite 300, Covington 70433. And yes, sir, we are requesting for a variance on the existing pond.
you have any other further comment about the request and the staff comments about?
We could make the lots smaller. I was trying to keep the lot size larger and keep it more uniform looking. I'm not sure if you'll have the survey in front of you or not, but we're just trying to keep it all uniform and keep it symmetrical in shape. The existing pond, I think it's at least been there 30 years, maybe 50 years, from the prior residents that owned the house at the back that we acquired all the property from. It is currently, this 14 acres makes up 4 different parcels, and so we're making 4 parcels into 5. The existing 4 parcels, I think the pond already goes over 1 lot line, so we're not making that big of a change.
You have anything further to add?
No, sir.
If you could just step back for a second. Is there anyone here in opposition to this request for variance? Seeing none, any comments or questions from the board?
I'm just going to ask a question to Mr. Lambert with regards to the concerns about the maintenance or any kind of other issues that might be involved with the pool. Can you elaborate more on that for us to kind of give us an idea of what the concern is and
Well,
what issues
basically-
could arise from that?
Basically, the pond will be going over several properties.
Okay.
So, when it comes to the maintenance of the pond, multiple property owners will have to be involved. Also, the use of the pond, well, you'll have potentially, if someone decides to use it as far as, to go into the pond with a canoe or anything like that, or fishing in a pond, well, obviously, you'll be trespassing over other property owners' property line.
Okay. And so I'll direct my question to Mr. Fouquet. Is that how you pronounce your name?
Yes, sir, like a bouquet of flowers, but an F in front, so
Okay,
bouquet.
okay. So are there any sort of agreements that you have in mind in terms of, tackling the issues that she's brought forward? Have you considered this?
Rod Rodriguez is our title attorney, so I can get him to draft something up to have it as a common, like you would for a private road, have some sort of common disclosure that when someone buys a property, they acknowledge that they have to maintain the pond along with others, just like you would a gravel road.
Okay, okay. I have nothing else. Thank you.
Mr. Brookter, you?
Yeah, I got a question here. I see you have some flood zones kind of in the middle of your property. Talk a little bit about that. It looked like it's kind of in sections, and it's not the entire property. Is that just in that little area where the flood zone is?
Correct. Flood zone B starts right in front of the pond. It kind of goes at an angle across the front. So flood zone C. So the way it is right now, lots 1, 3, 4, and 5 can all build their house in flood zone C. And then whoever buys parcel 2, which is the house that's been there for 40 or 50 years, will be in flood zone B. It does back up to Bayou Chinchuba, which is way, way, way in the back. All that's wooded, and you can't even see it. From the existing carport, I would say 50 or 60 feet is cleared across the back of the property, and the rest of it's all wooded.
So if I built my house for lot 1 behind that line, then I wouldn't be in a flood zone, right? That's what you're saying?
Right, you have almost probably 550 feet to build your house without being in a flood zone. Lot 1's current legal description actually goes all the way back to the existing carport, where that dotted line is. It includes that existing driveway that goes back to that house. So I'm cleaning up lot 1. We're reducing that from, it's currently, I guess, close to 900 feet deep. It's the 567 plus the 251 is the actual legal description right now of lot 1. And so I'm pulling back the 251.89 to make lot 1 smaller to where it makes sense for the couple that owned all of this that I bought it from originally. I guess didn't get certain things approved 50 years ago when they built it, and stuff's kind of all over the place. So I'm really just kind of cleaning up what's been there for a long time.
Mr. Daly, you had a question?
Sure. So it looks like, lots 3, 4, and 5, those are the ones that are extending near, or actually within the setback of the pond. Is it not possible to essentially only extend those lots into that sort of that border between flood zone B and C there, so they would be shorter, and then put the pond completely in lot 2? Is that a possibility as far as subdividing it? Would there be enough?
I don't think so, because then all 3 of those lots, I don't think met the 1 acre requirement.
And I guess this is more of a staff question, but as far as the no-cut buffer in this A2, is it 25 feet or is it 50 in?
It's 25 in the front, 50 on each side, and 50 in the rear.
Yeah, so that's only, was that 50 feet of buildable space within lots 3, 4, and 5 then? Within the outside of the no-cut buffer? Because they're 150 feet wide. I mean, it looks a lot like cases that come up to us where there's only a tiny little bit of buildable space right in the middle because the lot is too narrow for the no-cut buffer. It's more of a comment, I guess, than a question.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Any other questions or comments for Mr. Fouquet? Anybody want to make a motion?
About it. Mr. Chairman,
Blake,
again,
go ahead.
you all set?
Yes, sir, go ahead.
Okay. In BO case 2021-2470, I'd like to make a motion to approve with the caveat or the stipulation that there be some sort of common area maintenance agreement attached to the property through the and recorded, if that's appropriate.
It's appropriate.
Okay.
Mr. Rod will do that.
Okay.
Can I have a second to that motion? I have a motion and a second. Can we vote?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
based on Mr. Daly's comment, I would maybe like to point out Lot 1 is 115 feet wide in the front and 47 and a half feet in the rear. So talking about buildable area, what does the buildable area then become for Lot 1?
The lot is actually 47.5 plus 69.37 in the rear for Lot 1, because it goes at an angle.
So that measurement,
Yeah, it keeps
It's
going
only to
across.
where the dog leg right.
Yeah.
got it.
Okay.
And that's the existing width of that lot. Lot 1's already, that's the legal description of Lot 1 already.
I missed the arrow. It wasn't, I missed the 69.37.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Everyone vote with the screen.
Motion carries.
Thank you, sir.
Thank y'all.
Our next case is case number 5, BOA case 2021-2474. It's a request by applicant in an 8C3 highway commercial zoning district to reduce the required street planting buffer from 30 feet to 10 feet. The property is located at the southeast corner of Louisiana Highway 59 and I-12, Mandeville, Louisiana. The applicant is 3W and Mandeville LLC. The representative is Gulf States Real Estate Services LLC, represented by Mr. Michael Saucier. And I have a request from Mr. Saucier to speak here, and he's standing up here right in front of us. You're on, sir.
The request is to allow for the reduction
I'm sorry.
of the
I'm sorry.
30-foot planting buffer along I-12 to 10 feet to meet the minimum parking requirements of 5 spaces per 1,000 square foot for medical use. While the size of the building could be reduced to meet the required number of parking spaces and to provide the required 30-foot street planting area along I-12, the unique shape of the property and the need to provide adequate detention on a site shows sufficient evidences to warrant the support of the requested variance. Moreover, additional green space is proposed to be provided around the pond and along the southern access to the site to mitigate the reduction in green space along I-12. Should the board be in favor of the requested variance, it should be subject to the following: preserve all existing trees over 6 inches in caliper within a 10-foot street planting area along I-12. Additional Class A and Class B trees shall be provided as follows to meet the minimum requirements: 1 Class A and 1 Class B tree per 30 feet within a 10-foot buffer along I-12, and the required number of shrub or one shrub per 10 feet shall be provided along the southern entrance to the property.
Thank you. Ms. Hussey, go ahead.
Thank you. Mike Soche, President of Gulf States Real Estate. We are representing the Mandeville Hospital, Micro Hospital Group. A little bit about this project. These facilities they have 30 of these facilities around the country. They are basically a very highly specialized emergency room. Quick, efficient. In today's world, they are between an urgent care and a big hospital emergency room. Their local partner, Matty Palo, Dr. Matty Palo is here today. Namer Kine is the architect out of Houston who does these facilities for Newtex Hospital Group. Regan Kane is representing the seller of this property, Mr. Dan Waring. And you'll note on your application that our neighbor at Liberty Storage co-signed this application, so they're good with what we're proposing to do. In your package, you have a current rendering. It's a very fine facility. Our criteria these guys contacted us, I guess it's almost been a year now, was to find a highly visible, highly accessible location along the interstate corridor between X and Y. This piece of property fit the bill. It is very irregular in size. If you look at your package, particularly the staff comments, you'll see it's basically a T. One of the comments in my proposal letter requesting this approval is patient flow in a facility like this is extremely important. They manipulated the building as much as they could to fit it on this particular site. And we were able to keep our variances down to one, and that is the variance along the interstate frontage. I'd also like to point out that there is a buffer of trees outside of our fence along the interstate. And you can see that on the aerial that is included in the staff comment package. We have about 10,000 square feet more green space than is required on this particular project. We are doing our on-site detention. The detention is currently designed as a dry pond, giving us a lot of capabilities to replant the trees that are required by code in other areas of the site, and that's what we plan to do. Let's see here. I think that's frankly about it. We have been able to meet the parking requirements and all other requirements on this particular project, and we'll be working with our neighbors at Liberty Storage and to come up with an effective signage plan to get people in and out of the project safely. So it's also a very, very low traffic generator. There are not a lot of patients that go to this facility, roughly about 20 a day patients. Obviously, they have family members that may come in. We have another access way for them, but the emergency entry will be at the traffic signal, and we have a cross-access agreement with the Circle K gas station that's presently owned by the seller of the property and is leased to them, Mr. Dan Waring. So that's it. Here to answer any questions you may have, and Mr. Namer's here for questions too.
Is there anyone here in opposition to this request for variance? Seeing none, Mr. Daly, I see you have a question.
I do. So that access from the gas station, that's sort of this inbound access? Okay. And so presumably people would come in that way and then go out?
That's correct. That'll be emergency entry.
Emergency entry. Okay.
And again, we'll have another driveway to the private drive south of the gas station for regular visitors and patient family members.
Okay. Thanks.
Any other questions? Can we have a motion?
Well,
I make a motion to accept this request by the applicant to reduce the required street planting buffer from 30 to 10. And
Should it be, would you like to make your motion subject to the three
Subject to-
items listed?
yes,
Yeah.
subject to the board's, the staff comments. Thank you, I couldn't think of what that word staff was. Staff comments.
I'll second.
Can I have a second?
Second? I'll let him do it.
I have a motion and a second by Mr. Daly. Any other discussion? Seeing none, please vote with your screen.
Motion carries.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Our next case is on there, number 6, BOA case number 2021-2475 BOA, request by applicant in an A2 suburban zoning district to increase the maximum allowable length of an accessory structure from 50 feet to 60 feet and the maximum allowable width of an accessory structure from 50 feet to 55 feet. The property is located at 129 Oak Manor Drive in Slidell, Louisiana, and the applicant representative is Mr. James Watts. Staff comments, please.
The request is to allow for the construction of a 3,300 square foot or 55 by 60 accessory structure. Although no hardship has been demonstrated, staff is not opposed to the request considering that the proposed accessory building will be located on a parcel of land over 1 acre in size, and it will not exceed the maximum allowable size of 7.5% of the area of the lot.
Please state your name and address. And
My name is Jim Watts, James Watts. My address is 129 Oak Manor Drive, Slidell, 70460.
tell us a little bit about your project. Where's your accessory building?
Right now it's in fabrication. I wasn't aware of the size restrictions. I'm from North Louisiana and lived out on 50 acres and kind of do whatever you wanted to there. So I have a camper and a boat and some other things like that. And we have no covered structures on our property whatsoever to store anything. So we decided that we would put up a structure. The enclosed area of the building is actually 40 by 60. We do have a 15-foot lean-to that's going to be attached to one side that runs the length of it. But we'll all be on one concrete slab. We really just needed somewhere to keep things covered. And I called about getting a permit. When I explained to the lady the dimensions, she said that I needed to get a variance request. So I called, and that's how I ended up here. I do actually have, I sent in my information basically the last day to turn it in. But I do have a letter from the president of our homeowners association and both of my neighbors saying that they have no objections to the building.
Thank you. Is there anyone here in opposition to the request for this variance? Seeing none, any other questions by the board or comments? I will entertain a motion.
Approve the request.
I have a motion from Mr. Brookter to approve the request for variance. Do I hear a second? Got a motion and a second to approve the request. Any discussion, further discussion by the board? Seeing none, please vote with your screen.
Motion carries.
Good luck. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much.
I will need a copy of that, Mr. I can, okay.
Yeah, I'll put that in the record. Good, thank you. All right, we got one more case for today, I think. Our last case today is case number 7, BOA case number 2021-2477 BOA. request by applicant in a A3 suburban zoning district for an after-the-fact waiver of the required 50-foot no-cut buffer from the top of the bank of Cypress Bayou. The property is located at 60343 Park Drive in Lacombe, Louisiana. The applicant and representative Michael Burgess and Andrew Peffley. Staff comments, please.
The objective of the request is to allow for a portion of the required no-cut buffer to remain cleared to provide for the location of a driveway to access a future residence. As stated in the attached narrative, the proposed location of the driveway will follow the same path of a previously existing driveway on the property. Since the property is 5.979 acres, the driveway could easily be relocated outside the required no-cut buffer. However, there's no objection to the request considering that using the path of the old driveway seems to be the least destructive option, and it will prevent the need to remove additional large trees on the site. As stated in the attached narrative, the future residence is proposed to be located over the footprint of the previous pool to also prevent the need to clear additional trees.
Please state your name and address and tell us about this project.
Sure, I'm Andrew Peffley, Peffley Construction. My address is 103 Blackbeard Drive, Slidell, Louisiana. And
You went through that a little quick. You're the contractor?
yes, sir. My client, Mr. Burgess, this property's been in their family for close to 80 years. There was a community pool built on this 6-acre tract, back in the 50s, I believe. That pool was at some point abandoned, and the property was overgrown. Throughout the last year or so, my client has shown an interest to build his personal house on this piece of property. The pool was abandoned in the woods. They'd fenced around it at some point. About a year ago, we walked some equipment in there and basically made the pool safe. Took the fencing down, drained the water out. We walked in along the existing driveway back to the site, and kind of cleaned everything up back there, made it safe because it wasn't beforehand. When we went to permit the home, we discovered that we had this no-cut buffer there along Cypress Bayou, and that's kind of where we stand. We stopped doing any groundwork there and submitted for a variance. One more thing to add, allowing us to use this existing corridor for the driveway will prevent us from the need to take down any trees. My client wants to be in the woods. He doesn't want to have a cleared site. He wants to be tucked back in there, kind of out of sight. Thank you.
Is there anyone here, I don't think there's anybody left, but is there anybody here in opposition to this request for variance? Seeing none, hearing none, how about questions from the board? Any other questions?
But, Mr. Chairman, I have just a comment. It seems as though we're doing the least intrusive, thing to the property at this point in time to maintain that tree canopy. So I'm going to be very much in favor of this, to let it go like it is.
And I'd like to make a comment. You all know that when it pops up and this is after the fact, chances are I'm going to freak out at some point. And this is not really after the fact. They moved a couple of trees out of the way to get down that dirt road. And this is not, there wasn't any clear cutting or stripping it out or anything like that. I went down that road and it was all I could do to get out. So he's preserved all the land and all the property, and it's really not an after the fact. That's good. Any other questions or comments? I will entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I'll move that we accept the variance request for, let me get to the case here, BOA case number 2021-2477, is that correct? Okay, yeah.
I have a motion to approve the request for variance. Do I have a second? And a second by Mr. Daly. Any other discussion by the board? or anyone? Please vote with your screen.
Motion carries.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you all.
Good job.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other, next item, any other old business? Any comments on or old business? I'm the old business chairman, so I don't have anything to say. How about, oh,
I'm kind of looking at Emily and potentially Helen. You know, we received the resignation letter from Commissioner Board Member Gidry. So are there any housekeeping issues we need to take care of or put on the agenda for next time concerning chair, vice chair, or any other items like that?
Mr. Guidry was a council appointee, so I let Mike Lorino know that we had received a resignation letter from Mr. Guidry, so that the council is prepared to appoint a new regular sitting member, and then they can either move one of the current alternates up to a regular member and appoint a new alternate, or they can just appoint a new regular sitting member. So they received that information today. I don't know if they're going to try to put it on an off-the-floor agenda. They may need more time to vet candidates. I would recommend waiting to do a new election on chair until after we have a new fully seated board, would be my recommendation. And then, of course, Mr. Valentine will be acting chair until that time.
and I promise to do better in recognizing the staff for their comments.
Well,
And I'll remember the word staff.
really, maybe we need a bullet point on here. Oh, no, we do have a bullet point. Please silence all phones and electronic devices.
I know, it's my device.
I guess that doesn't apply to the chair.
It does. It does. The idiot will do that, will correct that in the future. All right, I guess we've done with new business and old business. What about new business? What do we got for next month?
About 4 cases.
And when's Labor Day and when's the meeting? It's always a conflict.
The meeting is the day after Labor Day. It's gonna be the 7th of,
Wherever I am, I will return. I know I won't be in Mandeville for sure. All right, what else we got? Motion to adjourn.
So moved.
All in favor? All right, thank you for being here. Thank you for your participation. I would prefer, if I get a comment to the council, one of the, rather than bring somebody in new, somebody that comes in new, they should come in as an alternate, and then.
I think that's the direction they're looking for.
Good. Good. Okay, I'll shut up.